Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report Podcast, energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard of pewterreport.com, and along with me today to talk about Bucs OTAs, some of these Bucs training camp battles, all things Bucs, really, including his history as a Bucs fan, what he did when he was thinking, and what he was started his YouTube page. Cannot wait to talk to this man, the one and only James, Mr. Bucs Nation. I should just refer to you as Mr. Bucs Nation. Keep the aura in the mystery. Not that there is a mystery, but James, what's up, man? Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, John, thanks for having me on. For everybody watching this, nice cross-promotional type thing we did. John was on my channel for 4 videos, and now I'm here on the Pewter Report Podcast. If you guys are new, coming over from my channel, just checking this out, subscribe to the Pewter Report, okay? Yeah. These guys do phenomenal content over here. It's awesome to be here, seriously. So, John, again, thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. I'm glad we could make this happen. We've talked about doing it for a while, and I'm very glad that we've put this thing into action. We've got a lot to cover today. I want to hear a lot about you and some of your history in starting this thing and what you've been able to build and where you kind of see it going. I want to, as much as you're willing to talk about that, talk about that a little bit on the show, but we'll obviously dive into the Bucs conversation too. I mean, we got to talk about some roster battles and things like that, training camp, even the thing, some of the coaches' comments today. I want to get your thoughts on. There were some very interesting comments I made today by Byron Leftwich and some of the other coaches, Clyde Christensen telling some Brady stories today. So I want to run all that by you for sure. But first, we got to give a shout out, as we always do, because all this awesome, amazing content is brought to you by our friends over at Celsius. Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. Got the strawberry guava going on today. Nice. Top 5 flavor for me. Have you ever tried Celsius, James?
Yeah, I've actually had it a couple of times. First time we met, I actually had some Celsius. So
when we were at Glory Days.
Yeah, so I like it. I'm a fan of it, I haven't tried all the flavors. I'm going to have to try that strawberry guava that you had there
I'm telling you, this one's this is a game changer. No sugar again. Healthy energy, accelerates metabolism, burns body fat. Taste is unbelievable. That's what really gets me, the taste. I've never been a big energy drink person. Don't really, create a lot of my own energy, I always say. But man, these things have been great. They've been game changers for me, help with early morning workouts and things like that. So try out all the flavors. I'll encourage you to everybody to try all the flavors. But you can go over to Celsius.com. You can click the banner ads over at pewterreport.com. And you can get kind of a great feel for where you can find that Celsius, what the flavors are out there, and how you can order that. But yeah, really, really great stuff from Celsius as always. James, I got to ask you, do you make people call you Mr. Bucs Nation when you're not on the air, like when you're just like around in your everyday life? Like
No, it's always just James. I mean, I actually very rarely say Mr. Bucs Nation, even just like on videos or anything, I just always go, "Hey guys, James," So yeah. So it actually sounds kind of weird sometimes. Like if I ever run into anybody who sees the show, they go, "Oh, you're Mr. Bucs Nation." And I go, "Oh yeah." Right. I'm just so used to, it's just James,
Sure. That's funny. Yeah. So let me start there. Like, what prompted you to start this Mr. Bucs Nation YouTube? Can you tell us some about like the genesis of it and how it came to be?
Yeah, so it actually started. Okay, so I've been on YouTube, collectively, I think for around 9 years. Okay. Much like any kid, like teenager, I started off like playing video games on YouTube, and me and my buddies would play video games on YouTube, and I did that for, I want to say like 5 years, something along those lines. And Mr. Bucs Nation actually started where I was playing Madden, because I was like, hey, I can't play like sports games on my other channel where I play games. I want to have a channel where I play Madden and play with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I thought, okay, hey, Mr. Bucs Nation, that sounds cool. Let's go with that. So I put that down as the name. I played Madden, and then after a while I was like, I don't feel like playing Madden on here anymore for YouTube. So I stopped, for a couple of years, like a year or two. And then when I was a senior,
what years are we talking about here, by the way? We're talking about what?
So I graduated in 2015. So I want to say I stopped. I started it, and I want to say around 2013, 2012, something like that. Did a couple of videos for about a year, stopped Madden videos for like 2 years, something like that. And then 2015, I made one video where it's a funny story. So when I graduated high school, I sent out my high school graduation, announcements, I guess, if you will. I sent them to all 32 teams in the NFL, and I said, hey, I graduated. This is really cool. I wrote like handwritten notes to each team and sent them all out. And I actually got a couple of things back. Like the Colts sent me a congratulatory letter. I think the Cowboys sent me like a team photo.
Wow.
And
the Bucs
all this
didn't send you anything though.
No, the Bucs actually sent me a whole box of stuff.
Wow.
So I remember at the time I made a video that was like, oh, thank you, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I was just graduated from high school, and it was basically, I just opened up the box and showed everybody what I got from the Bucs for graduating high school, because I thought that was a super cool thing. So after that, I didn't do much with the channel. And then one day I was watching a YouTuber that I'd watched for years, and I sat there and I was like, man, this guy seems like he's having a really good time. He's just sitting there just talking about things he likes to talk about in his room. And I think me and you had talked about this. I remember I sat there and I thought, like, that sounds fun and, I think easy to do. What's something that I like to talk about that I could, talk about every single day forever? And I was like, oh yeah, I love talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it was the off season where we got Chris Baker and Deshaun Jackson. That's
forgetful off season.
That was the first video I ever made. Was, man, we signed Chris Baker, we signed Deshaun Jackson. This is awesome, man. And that was
love it.
Yeah, that was the first
big backfire.
Yeah, that was the first talk video I ever made for the channel, and then after that, I've been doing that ever since, just talking about it. So it went from a Madden channel to, hey, the Bucs sent me this cool box, to, okay, now I'm doing talking about Tampa Bay Buccaneers just because I want to talk about them,
Right. You love them, and why not? Now, your channel has almost reached 11,000 subscribers. It's awesome. It's great stuff. If you subscribe to the Pewter Report podcast, definitely go over to Mr. Bucs Nation and subscribe to James's stuff. I have been kind of, since we connected at Glory Days, and then you know how the draft process goes. It was like, okay, just swamped with work and everything. Since the draft ended, which you were on the draft show for a little bit or jumped in the comments or whatever, I've been kind of like, all right, like, what's going on in the landscape, the lay of the land here? Because it's been nonstop for me since I got hired, basically, Pewter Report. So I'm getting a little bit better feel for the lay of the land, who else is doing Buck stuff, what they're doing, things like that. And I immediately want to put on your channel, and it was just fun. Like, that was the biggest thing that stood out to me, was just watching your videos, watching you. I watched the Super Bowl where you were like reacting live to what's going on.
Oh yeah.
At first I was like, what is going on here? Like, is he going to show the Super Bowl while he's on? Like, or is it just going to be him reacting to stuff? And it was you reacting to stuff, but also like you jumped into like play-by-play for moments of the game. Like plays would happen and you were like, the touchdown to Gronkowski I watched in the second one. And you were like calling the play and describing what happens. Brady's got all day in the pocket. Does that part, like, did you want to do play-by-play? Has that been a desire of yours, something you've pursued at all?
Yeah, so it's nothing I've really ever pursued. Like, I think it was last year I actually did color commentary and a little bit of play-by-play for my old high school's football games for a couple of those.
Wow.
Me and my friend did that, and that was like on a live stream. So that was pretty cool to do that. But no, it just kind of like formed into a play-by-play type thing, because I can't show the game. YouTube's very strict about certain things. That is one of them. So I remember a long time ago, I showed, I think it was the draft whenever Carlton Davis and MJ Stewart got drafted. I was like, oh, I can show the draft. And I had a really cool setup. Yeah. Boom, live stream got taken down. It was horrible. I couldn't live stream for, I think, 3 months. So I was like, nope, I'm never doing that ever,
So you
ever
can't show
again.
anything live. I know some people try to get around YouTube
Right.
rules, but I would imagine that's one you probably can't get around.
Exactly. So, yeah, at first I just kind of thought like, well, I'll stay at home and watch the games and just react to it. That'll be fun, just hanging out, watching the game with everybody. And then I just thought like, well, I got to do something here to fill in time. So I thought I might as well just do play-by-play and just talk about the game that's going on. And a lot of people who can't watch the game have actually said like, at least we're getting something here, Jim. So it's been I've seen some people say it's been helpful to get that kind of coverage, I guess. So yeah, I like doing it, man. It's a blast.
That's funny. I mean, that Super Bowl stream, I don't remember what it got to. It was like 70,000 people or something viewed that. Was that all happening while you were live? Were you picking up that audience? Or like, how did that come about? Were you just live and all of a sudden you look up and there's like all these people, or was it more rewatch after the fact?
So the way YouTube does it is kind of weird. Like anytime somebody will leave and then come back into the live stream, I think they count that as a view.
Okay.
But I think that stream, we actually broke a record. Yeah, I have it up there on my whiteboard behind me. The peak amount of viewers that we hit in that live stream was 1,414.
Wow.
Who were watching at one point, which was absolutely awesome. And when we were watching it, it was literally just a situation where they're like, James, why aren't you getting excited? I was like, I just can't believe this is happening. It's more shock than anything,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you saw that when you were watching a little bit of it. I was like, yeah, okay, yep. Okay, the game's not over yet, guys.
Right.
Where it's just
stay here.
Right, exactly. So it was really cool to get that many people in there, just all hanging out, watching the game, and all reacting together with it, and just having a really cool time.
Right. That's great. I mean, it got my wheels spinning in terms of like, wow, people consume this on game days. Like they enjoy this. Like it was really cool stuff, creative stuff by you, the whole thought process. And so it's been awesome to kind of track and watch and catch up with some of that stuff, and excited already to see kind of what you're going to produce in the future. The interview with Grant Stewart that you did recently, that's up, by the way. Go over to Mr. Bucs Nation, check it out. Interview with Grant Stewart. Really good stuff, insightful stuff. He's a great interview. That makes it a lot of fun. That's a great show. So it's fun stuff, man. It's always cool to kind of hear stories like that. And I'm sure we'll talk more in the future about like how that all has come to be, but that's really, really neat. Calvin wants to know if I play Madden or did play Madden. I did play when I was a kid. I don't play anymore. I honestly would love to play. I don't know how video games is amazing to me, how people have time to like, I can't just do things. So like I would be all in, like it would consume a large chunk of my time if I did it. But I love playing Madden as a kid. I would play a lot. Yeah. That was a lot of fun then, but I haven't played in years. So I've seen other people play. So I've seen some of the updated looks of the game, and I know people are always mad about Madden, but I always join the anger myself.
I always thought it'd be cool. For anybody watching this, I've always had a dream of mine to produce like a Madden tournament on the channel, and just have a bunch of Buccaneers content creators specifically come together and play Madden. So John, I don't know, hey, you might have to be in that tournament, man.
Maybe I'll get back into it, get waxed, get embarrassed, get out.
You never know, man.
That's true. Maybe catch fire and something happens. Right. So here's my question to you then. As you've kind of started and developed all this and everything, like, can you, walk us through a little bit about what you're experiencing? Because it sounds like from what you're saying, Bucs fan from a young age, and kind of have always been a fan of the Fiend, or the team. So like, what's the background there? And then what's this experience been like for you, seeing them add Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Tony Brown, all these players, not even necessarily live up to expectations through most of the regular season, and then all of a sudden just take off and win a Super Bowl? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so I've been a Bucs fan, since I was a little kid. I had the very fortunate opportunity to meet John Gruden a couple of times.
Wow.
Chris Sims, Savvy Piscatelli. I got to meet those guys a couple of times. Actually, John Gruden told me when I was a little kid, not explicitly, he just very much hinted at it, that I had a weak handshake. So I was.
Wow.
So that's
tell us this story. What happened? So you just like, how old are you?
I was very young, like in elementary school.
What? He's criticizing your handshake in elementary school?
So I was either in elementary school or very early in middle school. I'm pretty sure elementary school, but the Buccaneers used to do this thing. It was called Breakfast with the Bucs, where local businesses and stuff like that could get together and meet some Bucs players and coaches. John Gruden was there whenever he was still with the team. And, Savvy Piscatelli was there. Chris Sims was there. Dalvin Joseph was there. Dude's got the biggest hands I've ever seen in my entire life.
Not a weak handshaker, probably.
But I went up to John Gruden and, I shook his hand. And he said, "Oh, nice to meet you." I said, "Okay, nice to meet you." And then my brother, who's older than me, came up and he shook John Gruden's hand. He goes, "See, now that's a strong handshake right there." And I was like,
than you.
I was like, man, dang it, John.
John Gruden, wow. I mean, he's positive about everybody, and he's out here putting a negative scouting report up on what, a 10-year-old's handshake? Come on. That's amazing.
It was brutal, man. I was like, I must have been, I think, a 10 or 11. So I was like, dang it, man. That's so, come on, John. I was like, come on, man.
His hopes and dreams dashed at 11.
Killed.
So I'm never going to be out here competing with Dalvin Joseph, John?
I've never forgot that in my entire life, man. But no, so, obviously, since I was around 9, 10, stuff like that, I've been, rooting for the Bucs, or since I could, kind of process what football, the ins and outs of it. But man, I remember I'm a weird fan, John. I love the weird, the out there players that nobody knows, right?
Dude, I definitely relate to that. When I was a kid, it was the same way. Football cards, everybody wanted the autographed Dan Marino, and I was this young dumb kid not realizing how valuable the card would be. And I'm just I want I don't know, the third safety on the Bucs. I want to make sure I have all the players. That's how it was.
Legit, everybody's like, oh man, Chris Sims, he's going to be our franchise guy. Oh man, Josh Freeman, he's going to be our franchise guy. And I was like, and Luke McCown, Bruce Gradkowski, they're good quarterbacks. Hey, how about Byron Leftwich? While he's a quarterback, I love, it was funny. Whenever we brought back Byron Leftwich, I had this memory in my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. He was a quarterback for us for a couple of games. I was like, and I remember he was just, I just liked him. He was cool, right. So, I mean, that's how I've just been my entire fandom of this team is I love the underdog guys who nobody likes to talk about and stuff like that. But, you mentioned, what was my thought process whenever, the Bucs signed Brady and Gronk and Antonio Brown and all these guys. Interesting story. So I thought the more momentum that was coming up for this Brady thing, I thought no, it's not going to happen, man. They're not going to actually get Tom Brady. But I thought what if they do? So I think it was hours before they actually announced the signing of Tom Brady, I got a season ticket for the season, and then they announced they signed Brady, and I was like, okay, this season, this, and then the prices shot up, and I was like, okay, I guess I guessed right here. I didn't think they were actually going to sign Brady. I mean, I wanted it either way, just in case because I was still wanting to go get a season ticket, just because it's fun to go watch the games. But, it didn't feel real. It still really doesn't feel real. I mean, they won the Super Bowl, and it's almost. Of course, it's a feeling of celebration, right? But it's almost this feeling of man, I still feel like I'm in a dream. There's no way the Bucs won the Super Bowl,
right?
With Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Brown, that didn't actually happen. No, it actually did happen. So that's just been my mindset throughout this entire past season of what is happening? This is insane.
Right. Oh, for sure. Vortex asked a good question. Who were your guys' favorite players growing up? I can actually talk about my favorite players in the Bucs too. I see a Derek Brooks jersey behind you, but you mentioned liking some of the players who were kind of behind the scenes a little bit, or maybe not as popular. Were there players that come to mind when you think about who your favorites were growing up? Probably. I'm guessing Vortex is asking for Buccaneers, but you could probably go outside of that too if you want.
I used to be a big Ernest Graham fan. I really liked Ernest Graham. I thought he was a really good running back. I was like, man, this guy should be our starter. He's a good, reliable running back. Again, it's more of that idea of just random out there guys. Barrett Ruud. I was always a fan of Barrett Ruud at linebacker. Rondé Barber, of course. He was still there for a few years when I was growing up.
Yep.
And guys like that, I was a really big fan of. Still a big Gerald McCoy guy. I still think that he did a really good job in Tampa Bay. And those are some of the main guys. I like Jeff Garcia a lot. I saw somebody in the chat mention Jeff Garcia again. thought he was a good quarterback. And just, kind of guys like that. That's from kind of the, really early eras and stuff like that. But just taking it a step further, like going into like the Josh Freeman era and stuff like that towards the end there, man, Mike Glennon. Glennon. I love Mike Glennon, dude.
Long neck.
Oh yeah. Mike Glennon. I'm a Glennonite for life.
That's
okay.
Funny.
I mean, that's facts, man. I love Mike Glennon. When I heard that they were going to give him like an $8 million per year deal to be the backup, I was like, hey, I don't see why not. I think this is a great deal. And everybody, not a lot of people like Mike Glennon, that aren't really Bucs fans. Like Bears fans hate Mike Glennon.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I got my guy, Mike Glennon. He's great, man. He's great.
That's funny. No, I remember back when I was a kid, it's funny now that I cover the Bucs because I remember, obviously you grow up a Steelers fan and I liked the 49ers as a kid, as a kid, I'm talking, I knew they won and I liked Steve Young and Jerry Rice and, why not? But I remember like outside of that, like the Bucs were definitely a team that I rooted for because I loved everybody on that defense. They were fun to watch. Derek Brooks was one of my favorite players in the league for sure. When I was a kid. And then, as I got older, it was kind of like evolved into other players, but I always liked guys that were on the Bucs, at one point or another. Simeon Rice was a favorite player of mine. As I've grown, I've become an analyst. It's always been like, how is Simeon Rice not considered for the Hall of Fame? Like why don't we talk about him? Look at this guy's numbers. He's like he was one of those guys that even like, I know his era wasn't that long ago, but any year in the league, you put him into the league, he would have been a double-digit sack guy. Like there's not many guys you can say that about. He was a really, really good player. Dub says Simeon Rice was one of his favorites back in the day as well. Yeah, just a really, really good player. So he was one of those guys that definitely stands out to me when I think about guys that were Bucs that I always rooted for kind of over the years. And obviously John Lynch, I was a John Lynch fan for sure. I think just on that defense over the years, there were a lot of players that I liked. And then I actually was kind of skeptical more recent years. I was a little bit skeptical about Mike Evans. I had a high grade on him, but I definitely was like, man, it's going to be interesting to see if this guy makes it, because at the time there were a lot of big, slow receivers. Wasn't slow, but a lot of big receivers that like people were like, oh, can they separate? Because they make a lot of contested catches. It was like a real discussion about whether those guys could succeed in the NFL. And he was obviously really different from Sammy Watkins and Odell Beckham Jr. I had him third in that class. I had Watkins, OBJ, and then Evans in that class. I know some people were lower on OBJ and a lot of people were lower on Evans. So I did like him a lot, but I did think there were still some questions. I was like, I had a first-round grade on him. But he was a player that as soon as he got into the league, it was like, oh, man, I think this guy's a baller. Like, not only that he was a great player, just love his demeanor. He has like that mix of confidence, but also like relatability. Like he's funny. Like if you watched him during the Super Bowl, like highlight DVD or whatever, the behind the scenes Bucs DVD, the Super Bowl DVD, like his little sideline quips and like, he's just a funny dude. He nervous talks and he's like funny, relatable, but also like very cool and obviously a great person. He's definitely one of my favorite players across the league, media bias aside or unbiased, whatever you call it.
Right. Well, for everybody in the chat too, like, I was naming players that aren't, like obviously I love Brooks, Sapp, Lynch, all those guys, of course, those guys are phenomenal. I was talking more about like the out there picks, so
right.
Of course I love all of our greats,
Yeah.
I think everybody has to, just by default.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about some of this stuff that's going on right now in the present day and age of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, it's an exciting offseason, but it's different type of excitement, right? Normally there would be this. Last year, there was how are these new pieces going to look, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, who's going to play on special teams? What do these rookies look like? That we're not going to see them in the regular season. So I can't wait to see them in the preseason because this might be our only chance to get a real good look at them. But now there's this growing excitement about Jalen Darden. There's this recent comparison Bruce Arians made when he was a guest on here, right here on the Pewter Report podcast, talking about comparing Darden in some ways to Antonio Brown and to Emmanuel Sanders. And then that kind of continued today when Byron Leftwich, I asked him about if he kind of saw that same comparison when he watched him. I'll see if I can find the exact quote on it, but he really, I mean, Byron Leftwich, if you know this, if you listen to Byron Leftwich presser, the man does not give many details away. He loves to generalize, and he honestly, he's kind of cliche talk when he speaks. You're not getting a lot of great information from him. He had the glow up going when he talked about Jalen Darden, dude. Like you could see he really is excited, and he was more effusive in his praise than he typically is. He said, it's all over the college tape. Leftwich said, I was a big fan of his. I love that because he said, I was a big fan of his. That means Leftwich had put the time in on the tape, seen Darden, and he probably was one of the guys I would guess standing on the table for him. You don't see coaches always give away those nuggets. I bet that Leftwich is a guy standing on the table for Jalen Darden. If I had a follow-up, I would have asked him that if we get chances to. If it's, I'll definitely ask him about that. But it sounds like he said, I was a big fan of his. He's not a big guy, but a smaller guy that can pluck the ball. He's very fast. His mannerisms are very similar to AB. Obviously, that's a big order to put on anybody. But I just remember AB being a rookie, being a player on that team. And he just kind of shook his head and laughed. And he was kind of like, they are very similar football players. So man. I'm not saying Darden will be AB, obviously. Nobody's saying that. Just because players are similar doesn't mean their career paths will be identical. It frustrates me sometimes when people will correlate the two. You can be stylistically similar and never produce the same way. The situation matters, staying healthy matters. Darden is right now wide receiver 6 or 7, you know. But do you see that comparison at all when you watch Darden? What was your thoughts on that pick and kind of what you've seen so far?
Yeah, so it's funny, man. I feel like I've said this in recent videos where I go, I know I'm mentioning Jalen Darden in every single video, but the dude keeps on showing up. I have yet to see a day of practice where Jalen Darden is not mentioned because the dude is just it sounds like he is just going crazy in all of these practices. Like, I think,
nice.
John, you said it too. I think it was June 1st's OTA practice where he was uncoverable. Yep. Him and Jadon Mickens were just uncoverable, and they looked phenomenal out there. So, I mean, the hype train is really going for Jalen Darden right now. I can't wait to see him in the preseason with Kyle Trask, especially. I think that connection is going to be amazing. But, whenever the pick was made, I was a little surprised, and I was actually talking to Evan Wanish of the Cannon Fire podcast, and he had said, I love this pick. He goes, this guy is one of the sleepers of the entire draft for me. Wow. I said, really? He said, yeah, I think so, because he's just a phenomenal returner. He's a great special teams guy, and he's a really good wide receiver. That's a great comparison to make, with Antonio Brown and Jalen Darden there. Like you said, obviously they might not end up being the same player in terms of production when everything's said and done. But, I could see Jalen Darden working his way into the offense and really potentially carving out a role for himself, depending on what happens with, some of these guys. He might even cut into Scotty Miller's snaps and whatnot. So it's going to be interesting. I also compare him a lot to Jamison Crowder, Washington football team wide receiver, New York Jets wide receiver. They're obviously built very similar. So I'm very, very excited to watch Jalen Darden pick. Was a pretty surprising pick, I think, in the 4th round. I don't think a lot of people expected that, but it seems like it's going to be working out pretty well for the Bucs if Jalen Darden continues this streak of just phenomenal play.
Right. At the very least, you would think Darden continues to develop. He's a great insurance policy for them this season. If somebody gets hurt, he could be a great insurance policy for them in the future. If Chris, depending on what happens with Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown after this season, let's say hypothetically worst case scenario, they lose both guys or both walk away. You've got a situation where you could have a developing Darden, a developing Tyler Johnson, and a Scotty Miller and a Mike Evans. And it's not as good, but there are worse receiving cores out there, right? There would be, it would be a good receiving core still. So they've set themselves up to win kind of long-term at a position. As long as Darden continues to develop, he could be kind of that great insurance policy for the team. Oh, by the way, speaking of insurance policies, if you don't know about our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance, you should find out about them. You don't stay in business for over 30 years if you aren't doing something right. Briar Greaves has done a lot of things right, but none more than giving exceptional personal service to their insurance customers. We all need insurance, whether it's life, homeowners, auto, or even commercial insurance. Briar and Sam Greaves and their staff are the best in the area and big Bucs fans. It will literally take you 10 minutes to get a quote or compare your current policy, and that 10 minutes could turn into hundreds of dollars in savings. Don't wait. Call Briar Greaves today at 4166 and find out how much money you can put back in your pocket. 30 years in business and Bucs season ticket holders. Call Briar or Sam today at 813-876-4166. Make sure you do that. Check out Briar Greaves. Give them a call and save yourself some money.
That was That was a wonderful segue.
I've learned from the best, Mark Cook. I've learned from him how to set up the segues with our segments. So yeah, trying and learning and getting better every day. That's the key, right?
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about Darden, and I think it's just an exciting topic right now for Bucs fans because there are, like I said, there isn't a lot of intrigue or mystery this offseason about who's going to start or things like that. But there's plenty of it throughout the deeper positions in the roster. One of those spots is also at running back. Giovanni Bernard getting more and more praise from coaches recently. Bruce Arians say we're trying to teach him some of our tricks, but it's pretty clear he's already going to be a pretty big time weapon for us. And so they're happy, they're excited about him. I think who was it yesterday? Somebody was kind of praising him up and down. Today, I think Leftwich and Harold Goodwin both said right away, like, he's just a professional. Like, he just is. Like, he's that kind of a guy, highly intelligent, picks things up very quickly. I think Leftwich said today, you don't have to tell him things twice. Like, he gets it right away, makes the adjustments. So it's been very quick for him to kind of learn. Your thoughts on Giovanni Bernard and the whole offseason saga of what will the Bucs do at running back? There's hardly any holes in this team. But running back, man, these guys drop so many passes. What were your thoughts on the running back room going into the offseason? What did you want to see them do?
Yeah, so this is something we talked about. Me and you actually talked about on the channel there, on my channel. So, just to reiterate some of the points there, going into this offseason, they needed a receiving back. I mean, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. I know some people might disagree with it, but I think they're very similar in terms of what they can do as receiving backs, which is mediocre. Now they can obviously improve in that, and they might, we'll see. But overall, they left a lot to be desired, based on production from last season in terms of receiving games and whatnot. And that was honestly one of the bigger, needs that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had left was, hey, they need a receiving back. And they got one of the best guys in the game in terms of just being that guy in Giovanni Bernard. A friend of mine, Billy from Owen the Sea here on YouTube, he said that, he feels that Giovanni Bernard, when everything is said and done, he could be one of the most impactful weapons on this Buccaneers offense. And I think that I agree with him on that pretty wholeheartedly there. I think that Giovanni Bernard is a perfect guy to pair up with a quarterback like Tom Brady. I think he's going to have that story where it's like, nobody's really paying that much attention to Giovanni Bernard because he's on a mediocre Bengals team for, his whole entire career. Then he comes to Tampa Bay Buccaneers and he does great. Everybody's like, whoa, Giovanni Bernard, one of the best guys in the league. And it's like, I mean, we all kind of already knew that, but now it's more highlighted, So I think that it was a phenomenal addition to this offense. It was exactly what they needed to give themselves even more of a boost. I mean, they didn't need it, of course, but it gives them even more of a boost. So that's going to be his role. What's going to be interesting is going to be Ronald Jones versus Leonard Fournette. We talked about this where whichever one of those guys might not win that head back job, might not get a ton of playing time unless they. Thank you, Dub. Thank you, Dub.
I threw that up there to see if I'd throw you off for a second.
Appreciate that. No, but
Dub said James made his bed for the PR. If you're listening on audio, Dub said James made his bed for the PR stream.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, James.
Hey, but anyway, yeah, it could be two situations where Giovanni Bernard is the receiving back in both these situations. Ronald Jones is the main back. Leonard Fournette is the goal line back. Or they just say Ronald Jones can be both the goal line back and just the main running back. We've seen him do goal line stuff before. And, that those could be the situations. Where does Keyshawn Vaughn figure into that mix? I don't know. Bruce Arians said he expects him to have a breakout year. So, I mean, there's a lot going on. But I would say right now, the way to look at it is Ronald Jones versus Leonard Fournette for that number one back job and who's going to be getting the most carries. And then Giovanni Bernard, I think in every situation is going to be the receiving back.
Right. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think you're definitely onto something there with the way the running back carries and opportunities are going to get divided up is going to be one of the storylines for me. And it genuinely, there isn't many things I can say I have very little prognosis about. I just have no clue. I mean, how they treated the running back room last year was a complete mystery. I mean, 1 second it looks like Fournette's just out of there. Like they come out of the bye and he's a healthy scratch. Next second he's playoff Lenny, Lombardi Lenny, and Rojo's still running well, but I mean, he's not getting the same opportunity. You think after 2019, Rojo's figured out as a receiver. He had some nice plays as a receiver. And last year it looked like he'd never been thrown a football in his life at any level of football. It was amazing to watch. I have no clue what to expect. You're talking about, a guy in Leonard that I think he is consistently kind of who he is, but definitely played above that for the playoffs a little bit. And then a guy in Ronald Jones that catches that pass against the Chiefs and gets off the sideline. It's where is this guy? Just get verted, just running a straight line fast. That's not that hard. The rest of the year, it looks like he's reinventing the wheel every time he's out there for a reception. So it was how that all plays out this year. I mean, Rojo 100% could just suddenly get it together and then he's your feature back and Leonard just fades into the background, or Rojo could keep making you pull your hair out and Leonard becomes a feature guy. Gio's the third down guy. I think that part's, you kind of figure that's going to be set in stone. And all of a sudden it's Rojo without a whole lot to hang his hat on. So something's going to happen. It's going to make fantasy football people mad. Those are the two things we definitely know from Bruce Arians' tenure as a coach. Okay, hold on a second now. What is this? Garrett Washington says the music video James made is still in rotation at my house.
Have you not seen the music video I did, John, for 10,000 subscribers?
I definitely have not seen that.
So, wow, I can't believe that. I should have sent that to you. So,
definitely
to tell the story of that. So, for 10,000 subscribers, I thought, what should I do to celebrate this occasion? And a while ago on the channel, I had made a music video / song, and it was a Buccaneers parody of Old Town Road, because that was a popular song at the time. I thought this will be fun, I'll make a parody of this, and everybody's like, wow, James has actually lost his mind because I go from deep Bucs analysis to, hey, by the way, guys, I'm in a windbreaker with a fanny pack on and sunglasses singing an Old Town Road Buccaneers parody. So at 10,000 subscribers, I was like, I'm gonna make another music video, but what song should it be? And I remember there was this thing I watched from Bleacher Report. What was it? Gridiron Heights.
Oh, yeah.
In Gridiron Heights, they do this thing where they had an episode with the Buccaneers playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and they did a parody. It was like a 10-second parody of a sea shanty that was really popular on social media. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I could do this. I could make a full sea shanty and make a music video about it. So
is that what the GIF is of you dancing? Is that you dancing that I saw somebody post on Twitter?
Yeah, Chris Fisher posted it on Twitter. So I went to St. Pete Beach, filmed a whole music video of me dancing in a pirate costume and singing along to the song, and I lip synced the whole thing. So to hear the song, so I would know how to lip sync it, I was blasting this song that I wrote and sang at the beach at St. Pete Beach. It was very awkward. People were filming me. It was a fun time. But when you get a chance, I will send it to you.
Definitely.
Had somebody mix the audio and whatnot and make it sound really good and with the beat and everything, and it was a blast. So yeah.
Oh, I got to see that for sure. I can't wait. There's going to be gifts made, by the way. Just prepare yourself.
Perfect. That's fine with me.
I love it. That's funny. All right, here we go. We'll keep it rolling here to wrap things up. We got to talk a little bit about, we've mentioned a couple of these rookie situations, but we've talked about a new addition in Giovanni Bernard. I got to talk about one other player that's entering his second year, Keyshawn Vaughn. And then we'll talk about Kyle Trask a little bit. Sure. So Keyshawn Vaughn, he's a third-round pick. I said at the time on our live stream, I said, I think this is a reach. I think they wanted Antonio Gibson. I didn't know how much they wanted that they considered him in the second round, and he nearly fell to them in the third. I didn't know that at the time, but I thought they wanted Gibson, and he's off the board, and they just reached, and there was a big drop off at running back, in my opinion, after that. Right now, it's been disappointing for Keyshawn Vaughn. There's no way to really get around that. It doesn't mean that he won't, blossom and become a stud down the road, but this year he's looking at long odds to see playing time. He barely played special teams last year, 39 snaps, I think, and that's really, if he's going to get had on game days, he really has to stand out in that way, obviously, unless there's an injury. But he's kind of locked into being the fourth running back. I think it would be shocking to see him beat out any of the guys ahead of him, really, at this point. So what do you see with Keyshawn Vaughn? What's the future for him? Not that he has trade value or whatever, but what should the Bucs be trying to give him more opportunity? Like, just running backs usually play early in their career, and he's just really not going to get a chance to play very much this season, I don't think.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting situation to pay attention to here for the next, for this upcoming season, because what do you do with the guy?
Even the next 2 years, really, kind of. I mean,
because you already have Ronald Jones, you already have Leonard Fournette, and you have Giovanni Bernard, who you just brought in. Now,
right.
Ronald Jones' contract runs out at the end of the year, right? I believe so.
Yes. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, and Giovanni Bernard are all free agents.
Right. So when everything's said and done after this year, Keyshawn Vaughn's the only guy left. So the only thing that I could think of is an interesting quote that Jason Light gave recently, where he said, when I draft guys, I think about where they're going to be in 3 years, 2 to 3 years, stuff like that. And in 2 to 3 years, hey, Keyshawn Vaughn could end up being the starter, depending on what happens there. So it's going to be very interesting. Like you said, for this upcoming season, I know Bruce Arians said, like, hey, I expect a breakout year from Keyshawn Vaughn. I don't know why he said that, because right now the circumstances are definitely against him. But I guess you never know. If they do keep that mentality of, we're going to ride the hot hand, we're going to see who does the best, and just keep on rolling with them until they're not doing so good, then we'll go to somebody else. That could be the opportunity that Keyshawn Vaughn is looking for, where he has to stay as a hot hand and keep going with that. That's the only way I see him getting a ton of playing time on offense. And then obviously, like you said, he'll still get a few opportunities on special teams. But I think where we'll see Keyshawn Vaughn potentially break out or start showing his real value is maybe upcoming next season, depending on what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do with their running back room.
Right. No, three guys, so you'll definitely have something, to some extent. There will be more opportunity for Keyshawn Vaughn than it looks like there will be this year, almost certainly next year, if he with the coaching staff, if he can keep his role growing with the coaching staff. That's going to be kind of the big question mark with him moving forward. So, okay, Kyle Trask, this team takes a quarterback in the second round. James, were you surprised? Did you like Kyle Trask? What were your thoughts about him and where you see his career going?
I have a whole video of me reacting to the Kyle Trask pick. I was screaming my head off whenever they picked Kyle Trask. I just lost my mind because, again, the guy who I had with me, Evan Wanish of the Cannon Fire podcast, he said, man, if they pick Kyle Trask in the second round, I'm throwing something. And I was like, well, now I want to see it. I'm an agent of chaos, man. I want to see the chaos. And I want to see them get Brady's successor. Why not? It's not like they have a ton of needs. So I think it'd be fun. So they got Kyle Trask. I freaked out. I was like, man, Kyle Trask, let's go. What are we saying? And the chat blew up. It was a lot of fun to watch, but I think Kyle Trask is a good quarterback, right? I think he can do good things, and he will hopefully be a good future starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the next few years. Obviously, if Brady plays until he's 50, he might have to go somewhere else. But, I think Trask is a good quarterback. I think he can make a lot of the throws that you want him to. I think he can be a good fit for what Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich like to do on offense. And overall, I was excited with the pick.
Yeah, I kind of warmed up to it. It wasn't the player I would have picked necessarily, but as I thought more and more about the roster structure, it was like, man, this is a very difficult team to fit a second rounder onto right now. And you want a guy like that to either play or be at a really a valuable position, give you an option there. And they did, the second thing, obviously getting, a player, a quarterback, this is a valuable position. Again, if he can win you a game or two, he comes in and he's capable of winning you a game or two. Doesn't mean he has to be the franchise guy, but in a Super Bowl window, a guy like that could be helpful. Then they re-signed Blaine Gabbert, and it got confusing to me again. It's like, okay, well, you just took this guy in the second round. You don't even think he can be your backup. So I just am curious. I want to see how it goes in the preseason. I want to see, if he plays better than Blaine, basically, whether they list him as a 2 or a 3, whatever. But does he play better than Blaine? And kind of what promise does he show? That's kind of where I'm looking at that. But yeah, Fred Manning says Trask is a developmental player in the chat, and I agree with him. I think that it is a developmental process with Kyle Trask because he's going to have to get to such a level mentally to make up for not being the greatest athlete, having the greatest arm off platform. And that's where he's going to have to get to mentally. He's going to have to be that sharp. That means that development will be needed, I think.
Well, that's the
James,
thing.
Go ahead.
And I said, well, that's the thing too, is you look at the situation he's entering. I mean, you could argue that he is entering in terms of helping his development. He might be entering the best situation out of any of the quarterbacks drafted. You're going to learn from Tom Brady. You're going to learn from, I know people laugh and whatnot, but Blaine Gabbert's been a dude, okay? He can at least
most underrated player in the league.
That's what I'm saying. You know, we made a whole video about that, John, me and you. So what I'm saying is he's going to learn from Tom. He's going to learn from Blaine Gabbert. He'll probably learn from Ryan Griffin a little bit. Clyde Christensen's there. Tom Moore is there. Bruce Arians is there. Byron Leftwich is there. Like, there's so much NFL experience around him right now and guys who can teach him stuff. It's going to be absolutely awesome to watch him grow and develop. And I think in a couple of years, yeah, he'll be pretty ready to go. You know, I think that won't even be a question because he's going to have so many stinking guys around him that are just great at their jobs, who are some of the greatest of all time at their jobs, teaching him. So I think he really couldn't be in a better spot in terms of him developing and growing as an NFL quarterback and really getting ready to be that guy. You know, a couple of players that I've talked to in the past, you know, they said one of the biggest things that they learned in their rookie seasons was having that mentality of an NFL player. You know, I think Kyle Trask, he's not going to get a better experience anywhere else than where he is right now.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. In that environment you step into and the situation you step into often is way bigger in shaping what a career looks like for a player than any physical or athletic trait that they may have, especially at quarterback. At other positions, you can just, you know, there's a limitation, and it might not matter what situation you're in. But a quarterback, where so much of it is up here and knowing what you're in and having a coaching staff that has a feel for what you're capable of and what your biggest strengths are and can build an offensive structure around that, yeah, it definitely, I mean, it matters a lot. And I think that you're right about that. As long as Trask can get enough reps and experience, and that's why I thought, oh, he'll win the number 2 job and he'll get those experience, those reps and experience. You know, as long as he can keep getting that as he gets, you know, I think that he could continue to grow. What's the ceiling for him? Is he ever a desirable starter for the Bucs? I have doubts about that for sure. But like I said, if he can win you a game or two in a Super Bowl window and you need him to, something like that, maybe ends up being worth it. So we'll see. Do have to wrap up today's show, James, but I definitely wanted to do one more thing before we leave. We got to, and we always do, and I know the fans probably were excited to have you on for this portion of the podcast, but every week we talk about our friends over at manscaped.com. And so we got to do that today too. You can get 20% off Manscaped, and we'll kind of talk about what that looks like today, because this is your pubic service announcement and the news you've all been waiting for. The news, especially James has been waiting for on the pod. This is why he agreed to come on the pod today. The Manscaped engineering team has confirmed that they have successfully created the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is now available for purchase in the USA and Canada. It was released just recently. We were one of the first over at Pewter Report to get our hands on the Lawnmower 4.0. Let me tell you, yes, thank you. Applause is necessary. I appreciate it. Join over 2 million men, including the Pewter Report staff and James, hopefully, maybe after the show at least, worldwide, who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code Pewter, Pewter, Pewter at manscaped.com. We've tried the 4.0 ceramic blade, skin safe technology. Feels like Elon Musk's engineers worked on this baby. It is an awesome piece of machinery. There's a multifunction on-off switch that can engage. There's a travel lock on it, so it's not buzzing in your backpack or anything like that. You have got that great LED light that allows you to see, so everything's safe and you're not missing any spots, yada, yada. It's great stuff. You can customize your trim. It looks great. It's got the black chrome Manscaped logo. There's wireless charging with the 4.0. It's waterproof. I mean, the list of positives go on and on and on with this thing. I'm telling you, the Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped is tremendous stuff. You can get 20% off plus free shipping with that promo code Pewter, Pewter. Check that out over at manscaped.com and get Father's Day is coming up. Let people know. Everybody in the chat, let people know. Manscaped 4.0. That's what you want for Dad's Day.
I'm so happy that you guys have a Manscaped ad. That's the best thing in the world. That's literally the best thing in the world.
I had to do it while you were. I saved the ad read all week to drop it in when you were on the show.
That's
because
the best.
Trust me, we've had better reads. We've had more funny reads, humorous reads than that one even from them. But it's always good stuff. The chat always gets riled up when we do the Manscaped ad read for sure.
That's beautiful.
Go Bolts tonight. I see the shout outs in the chat.
Yeah.
Yes, go Bolts tonight. Indeed. It's going to be a big game.
Yeah.
I've been loving watching them. I mean, are you Bolts and Rays too? Are you all in? I see the Rays shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm Bolts and Rays. Obviously, everybody's still keeping continuity, doing good stuff, which is a great thing to see. So yeah, let's make sure everybody gets wins and goes out there and does good in their respective sports. So yeah, go Bolts.
Hey, I mean, this is Tampa Bay. The standard has been set. It's championships across the board. I know the Rays are killing out. Follow baseball as closely as hockey or basketball or football, but I know they've been killing it lately, doing a great job, and big things may be in store there again. And the Lightning obviously look like they're on their way too. So big game tonight. They can really take control of that series. So we are very, very excited about that. Edward says, welcome to the Manscaped crew, James.
There you go. I feel very welcomed after that ad read. That was fantastic. That really was.
It's been a great week on the Pewter Report podcast. We appreciate everybody jumping in. Next week, minicamp, baby. Monday, we are going to set the table, the preview for minicamp on the show. Scott has vowed to be back. I listened to his voice today. It is still pretty rough, but he is working his way back. And it is coming along. It's definitely progress. So we'll be back Monday. Hopefully Scott will be with us. We'll have a lot to break down on the show. We'll preview minicamp, set the table for some of the biggest matchups that we're looking at. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we got minicamp practice in the mornings, and we're going to break it all down at night. Everybody back together. So again, if you haven't yet, Pewter Report TV, make sure Mr. Bucs Nation, subscribe to both of those on YouTube. Support what we're out here doing. We do appreciate everybody who already does that. Now, as always, big shout outs to y'all who are in here consistently. Means the world to us. But tell friends, tell family, spread the word. Those are the podcasts you want to be subscribed to, especially this week coming up. It's minicamp week. Everybody back together for the Bucs. It's that kind of an offseason where it hasn't happened yet with the OTAs and the weirdness of this year, especially with Tampa Bay. We haven't seen that. This is going to be everybody coming together before training camp. With this team, it'll be the first time that's happened before training camp. And so it's going to be big. It's going to be a great week. We're going to have a ton to break down and to talk about. We're going to get to see Darden against ones. We're probably going to get to see Trask get reps against number ones on defense. Some of the defensive players, we don't even know what they've been doing. They're going to come back into the fold. We're going to get to talk to players, talk to coaches next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, minicamp. It is going to be great stuff on the Mr. Bucs Nation pod and on the Pewter Report podcast. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're checking us out, and appreciate y'all listening and tuning into another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.